This exhibition, Minimalism, Post-Minimalism, Conceptualism, 60s and 70s, is really an introduction to a vital period in American art history. It focuses on 5 of the most major artists working in America in the post-war years: LeWitt, Dan Flavin, Fred Sandback, Bruce Nauman, and Dan Graham. And all of them were part of these movements that we now call minimalism, post-minimalism, and conceptualism. The way we understand these works is by thinking of them as first and foremost ideas, and then the way that those ideas are manifested define whether the work is considered now by critics minimal, conceptual, or post-minimal. Bruce Nauman is one of the youngest artists in this exhibition, and he's really generally considered a post-minimalist. And what that means is he's using the ideas developed in minimalism and conceptualism, but he is manifesting them through experiments with his body. This work behind me is one of Bruce Nauman's first neon pieces. As you can see from the title, is Bruce Nauman's name written on a vertical axis with an exaggerated manner so that it no longer is language that you can read. It's no longer letters as we can discern them. So what he's doing here is abstracting the idea of language, the idea of his name being an embodiment of himself as an artist. So the idea here is to institute a moment between the artist and the viewer where the translation becomes necessary. And he's using this industrial material, neon, as a way to signal that as brightly as possible. He could have just written this on the wall, but instead he illuminates it in neon to really exaggerate this fact. This video, along with another video you'll see across the gallery, dates to around 1968, 1969, when Bruce Nauman began experimenting with video, which was a new technology. And one of the benefits to it was it allowed the artist not only to be able to hold a camera for the first time, but also to be able to see himself on a monitor attached to the camera and see his actions in real time. What's fascinating about this is the video is not actually synchronized with the sound. So he's saying the words lip sync, but what we're seeing is just off time with that. So he's actually, a lot of Nauman's work plays with wordplay and makes fun of language and all its permutations. So he's really manipulating our sense of space by turning it upside down, but also our sense of language, because this phrase no longer makes sense to us. He says it so many times over the course of the hour that it becomes nonsensical. And so he's abstracting not only our sight, but our comprehension, our very understanding of language as we know it. So this film by Bruce Nauman, walking in an exaggerated manner around a perimeter of a square, is from 1967, 1968, and it's one of the works made in his studio at the time. And so he started experimenting, coming up with a very simple idea, and then executing it in front of, in this case, a film camera. And 16mm film only lasted about 10 minutes, so all of these films are about 10 minutes. And so here what he's doing is walking around a square that he has taped out on the floor of his studio. He's also doing it around a square, which is a reference to minimalist art. In minimalist art, this square was considered a very important simple symbol that could be built up into other shapes and understood very easily. And he has positioned this mirror in the back of the studio as a way of signaling to us that we actually aren't there. He wanted us to feel as if we were a part of the action, but the mirror actually reminds us that in fact we're just watching a film and we can't be part of his studio. So there's a push-pull between the artist and viewer about how much we can actually experience with him. So this video is called Manipulating a Fluorescent Tube, and it derives actually from a performance that Nauman did as part of his graduate work, where he held an 8-foot length fluorescent tube and moved it around his body over a period of time. Here you can see the room is very dark, and really the only light is coming from the tube itself, which he positions in various places around his body. At the moment you can see he spends a lot of time in the video with the light between his legs, which is an obvious phallic reference. A lot of Nauman's work plays off humor, and I would argue that he was aware of Dan Flavin's work, who you see in the gallery upstairs. A lot of Nauman's work, even though he appears in it quite frequently, questions the role of the artist as this heroic celebrity feature in the art world. He is in the spotlight, literally, from this light bulb, and everything around him is darkness. So the artist is the only one that you can see.